So the cause of the purpose of this course is to enable the student understand why we need information systems security. Security is an integral part of information systems, because basically the reason for this is because once we develop these information systems, or once we have these information systems working, and at the present day we are working especially with internet services or with connectivity. So there will be several aspects with internet services, like routing, addressing, domain naming, and most importantly is database management. And these ones can face different threats. That is why it is very important to secure these systems, either they are on the desktop or they are in a server somewhere on the web, and the transmission of information as it is moving from one point to another between different users in organizations. Nowadays, we are operating globally. That is why it becomes very important. So, one of the objectives of this course is to understand information security and the related concepts. Then you will also need to understand the process of risk management and assessment. How do you assess risk and how do you manage it? Then you also need to understand how these security issues come about, what are the threats to these security systems, and how you can thwart these threats. Then you will also be able to develop an information security policy, how it is normally aligned with business objectives and why it is very important. Then at the end of the day, you appreciate the role of business continuity planning, incident management, and management of security controls. So that is basically what we will be dealing with. In this course outline, I'm just going to update the books. These are a little bit old. The book I'm using now will update and then share with you. Then we will also be talking about, specifically, we will first introduce what security is. Then we understand what cybersecurity is, the top-down security management, and the effectiveness of information security sets. Then we will move on to understand these information security policy basics. We try to understand the different types of security policies, that is the policies, the standards, the guidelines, baselines, and procedures. Then we will move on to understand information security policy framework and the different security policy frameworks which are available, like the FISMA framework, the ISO 27000, which was developed in 2013, the COBIT framework, the HMG ISPF framework, and many others. Then we will move on to understand the security policy details, what should be at the front end, what should be at the back end, what your client should be able to view, what they should not be able to view, and all of that. Then we go to the procedures and standards, and then the security policy projects, how you can come up with a security policy project and implement it. So basically, that is what this course is all about, and that is what we shall be dealing with. So let me do a little bit of introduction. So let me share this. So this is like the first lecture. So what the first thing we want to understand is what is security. So I hope you are able to see that presentation. Are you able to see the presentation? Okay. So when we want to understand security, then we need to look at it in terms of where information systems are applied. So when we are talking about security, we talk about it because right now, like I just said, the electronic information has become an integral part of our daily lives, whereby we use information systems to connect socially, for education, for entertainment, for business, and all of those factors. So since it has become an integral part of our lives and information is being collected, processed, stored, and shared electronically, then it becomes very important. As much as it is helping us to perform different activities, to do business, and to do all of that, yes, it has brought convenience, it has brought about capabilities, but at the same time, it becomes like a threat because this information needs to be protected. It needs to be accessed by the right person, the right way, and used in the right, following the right procedures. That is why it needs to be protected. And that is where the aspect of security comes in. So as more digital information is being gathered and shared, the protection of this information is becoming more vital, and not just at a personal level or at an individual level. It moves from the individual level, it goes to maybe organizational level, institutional level, up to the security, national security level, whereby even with governments and institutions, this information has to be protected to ensure that there is economic stability. So cybersecurity becomes that ongoing effort to protect these systems and the data which is being collected, processed, and stored from unauthorized use or harm. So that is what becomes now cybersecurity or information security. On a personal level, you need to safeguard your identity, your data, and your computing devices. That is why we normally say your your offline identity should not be the same as your online identity. Your online identity could be the person who is doing some business transaction or the person who is providing content for entertainment or anything like that. But your offline identity is what is known to your family, the serious stuff you do, and that needs to be protected. That is why we say at the personal level, you need to safeguard your identity. That is the first thing. Then your data, and then your computing devices. Nowadays, all these computing devices we are using, they are connected. You are able to access the same content with your mobile phone as you could do with your laptop and so many other gadgets. So they need to be protected. At the organization or corporate level, it is everyone's responsibility to protect the organization's reputation, data, and customers. So here it becomes a little bit wider, whereby not just your identity or your data, you're talking about the organization's reputation. If this information is leaked, imagine it is a bank and the banking details of all the customers have been leaked, they are in the public domain, then that becomes a problem to the organization's reputation. The data is already exposed, so confidentiality has been compromised, as well as customers lose faith with the organization. At the state level, national security and the safety and well-being of the citizens are at stake. So that also has to be protected. So here, the reason why we are talking about this security and protection is because we are living in a world of experts, and these experts can easily turn to be criminals. That is why we are talking about security. That is why we normally say security is very important. So many of these hackers, or when we talk about these criminals, they are just experts who are applying their skills in the wrong way, or they are using this expertise to perform criminal activities. Originally, in the 1960s, the term hacker was used to describe individuals with advanced programming skills. And they were using these advanced programming skills just to test the limits and capabilities of those early systems. But now, within technology evolving and technology advancing, then these hackers have now turned out to be something else altogether. So there is the cyber culture which has been there, and in the cyber culture, we normally borrow from just the conventional way of living, like the Sun Tzu's principle, which says that you need to know your opponent. That is why in cyber systems, we normally start when we are testing cyber systems, something we will cover as we continue. We normally start with a step called reconnaissance. Reconnaissance is trying to know your opponent or trying to know your target. You need to learn about your target. You need to know what they are all about. Because once you know your opponent, then it just translates to the way of life. You need to know what are the strengths of your opponent, what are the weaknesses of your opponent, what are the operating procedures. If it is a target system you are looking at, you need to know how strong it is, what are the loopholes or where are the weaknesses. Then you need to know what are the standard operating procedures, and then from there you can be able now to launch an attack that can work. So the same way the way of life is, it is the same way the cyber culture operates. Now, when we are looking at your online identity and offline identity at the individual level, we look at it this way. Nowadays, most people are spending time online, and your identity, which is both online and offline, can affect your life. Your offline identity is the person who is staying with friends and family on a daily basis, either at home, at work, and they know your personal information such as your name, your age, where you live. But your online identity is who you are in the cyberspace. And your online identity is how you present yourself to others. That is why we say this life you see on social media is not real, because there is that projected image which you want to show to others in the cyberspace, which is totally different from who you are offline. So this online identity should only reveal a limited amount of information about you, because if just anybody on the web knows all about you, then that becomes a challenge. So you should take care when choosing maybe your username or an alias for your online identity. The username should not include any personal information. It should be something appropriate and respectful, and the username should not lead strangers to think that you are an easy target for cyber crimes or unwanted attention. So that is basically what we are meaning. And when you are looking at your individual data, we are looking at your computing devices, maybe your smartphone identity, your laptop, all of that. Medical data is also available, employment information, your online information, your real identity, educational data, financial data, all of that needs to be protected. Then let us look at these cyber security domains, because as data is being collected, it has been growing, and organizations have come up to be able to provide users or customers with platforms on which they can be able to perform different activities. Think of companies like Google, Facebook, LinkedIn. They have created data domains in our cyber world. These groups or these companies, they are able to collect and utilize these massive amounts of data and they begin to amass power and influence. Like they can determine the way you think, they can determine who is going to advertise to you, what is being advertised to you, because they are able to profile you as a user. Think of your online profile on Facebook, how it is being used. So this data can be in form of numbers, pictures, video, audio, or any type of data that can be digitized. And these groups now could become so powerful that they operate as though they are separate powers, creating separate cybersecurity domains. That is why we have given examples of these big three tech giants, just to understand what we are dealing with nowadays. So when we are extending the analogy, the people who work at these digital companies could be considered as cybersecurity experts. The word domain has many meanings, but here we are looking at a domain in terms of control, authority, or protection, because that is what they are basically doing. Now, the way a wild animal would control its space, like this is my domain, or when you go, you build your own home, you've bought your plot, umejenga nyumba yako, and then that becomes your domain because you are able to control what is happening there. You're able to protect that, or that space you have bought is protected by law. So it becomes your domain. So it may be limited by a logical or physical boundary. Physical boundary is like the one we are talking about, your home, which has like those physical locations. But the logical boundary is where we are talking about now in terms of ideology, in terms of the data which is being managed. So that is what makes it a domain. So cybersecurity experts have to protect their domains according to the laws of the different administrative areas or countries. So let us look at these cybersecurity domains. So I hope we are still together, Edna. Ama umepotea? Are we still together? Okay, thank you. And where is your friend? He disappeared on us, but that is okay. So let us proceed. The experts at Google created one of the first and most powerful domains, and people, billions of users use Google to search the web every day. And when they are searching, Google is able to collect that data about the user. Google also developed Android, the operating system which is being used by 80% of all mobile devices, and they are connected to the internet. Now, for you to use this Android operating system, Google requires you to create a Google account so that you can save bookmarks and account information, then store your search results, and even locate the device. So that is giving Google the capability to collect a lot of data about you as a user and use it. Facebook is also another one which has a broader domain. The experts, the goal of Facebook was to create a platform whereby people could create what are they called, accounts, and these accounts you would create your profile and you can be able to connect and communicate with family and friends. In so doing, you are like volunteering your data to Facebook, and these Facebook experts build a massive data domain to enable people to connect in ways that were unimaginable in the past. So all of this data which you keep on updating is collected by Facebook. And if you remember, there was this time during the past American election where Cambridge Analytica went and bought data from Facebook so that it can profile voters. It has happened in many other places. So that is why we are saying these domains can be used in a good way or a bad way. Because if they are able to buy this data, they profile these users and they are able to know these users are predominantly supporting this candidate. We want to change their thinking by sending attack messages about this candidate so that they think negatively about them. Then they have won. So that is what we are talking about when you are looking at this domain. Then LinkedIn is another one. They are creating a platform for professional networking, for employers and employees to connect. And by that, they have a lot of similarities with Facebook. Facebook is just for social connectivity. This one is for professional connectivity. And these domains have been constructed and they have built in a lot of data regarding users. This data, we say, it would include things like users' backgrounds, discussions, likes, locations, travels, interests, friends and family members, professions, hobbies, and work on personal schedules. So it is a great deal of information which is being harnessed by these organizations. And that is where now we start looking at information security management from that broader perspective. So when we are looking at information security management, it has these three aspects. One of them is confidentiality, the other one is availability, the other one is integrity. When we are talking about confidentiality, it basically means privacy. That information which is not meant for anybody else should not be accessed by anybody else. That is what we mean by confidentiality. If it is medical record, like we say, doctor-patient confidentiality, meaning that the doctor cannot disclose patient information to any other party. That is the same aspect we are bringing here in information security management. In that, confidentiality is of utmost importance. Like we have seen, all of that data which is being collected by these security domains or by these companies, then there needs to be confidentiality. The other one is availability. Imagine you have dependent on Google and one day you try to access Google and it is not available. Then information security has been compromised. Integrity is that aspect of ensuring that this information cannot be changed or cannot be altered to mean something else from what it was meant to mean. So you need to have integrity of information, meaning that in these cybersecurity domains, like fake news, so it is something we have experienced once in a while previously. So you need to ensure that fake news is not there because it will affect the integrity of these information systems. That is why we say integrity is an aspect of security. So these three pillars must be linked back to the business requirements. That is what we are looking, because we are looking at security in terms of our organizations, our institutions, which always have some goal, which always have some vision and mission and goals to accomplish. So we are saying those three pillars of security need to be aligned or need to be linked to the business requirements. Every organization with information systems or data has a business objective of protecting its critical information system and that sensitive data. So, in the past, security was viewed as a practice of the techies or people who have some computer skills. But the numerous major breaches and information security events have taken place and made protection of information system and data among the top concerns in the C-suite. When we are talking about C-suite, we mean the corporate level of the organization or the people who run the organization. So now it is not just a matter of the lower level employees, but it needs to be handled strategically from the top level of the organization. So as you are looking at your business objectives, as you are developing your organizational strategy, security, information security needs to be one of those requirements. So the creation and revision of an information security policy is not just a small task. That is why we are saying there is no shortcuts, because you cannot say, I am going to copy this organizational information security policy and bring it to my organization and believe that it is going to work. No, that is not the case. Security policies, they cover a wide range of information security policy objects and controls, which are linked to the organizational objectives. So it takes a lot of effort to research, draft, approve, and convey these policies. There is always the temptation that to conclude that someone else's organization, since they have their policies working, then they can work for us. So that is not the case. That is why we can't use templates or buy a set of pre-written policies. You need to sit down as an organization, look at your objectives, and align them now to the security policies. While example policies and even pre-written policies are good examples, or they can guide you in developing your own information security policies, users should be aware of being compliant in a box, like ready-made policies, just following what has been outlined. No, that one is a preparation for a disappointment, because what has worked elsewhere may not work for you. And that is why this pre-written one-size-fits-all policies is generally accepted understanding within information security to bring about a bit of clarity, but it needs to be different. Why? Because one, every organization has a different business mission, meaning that you cannot succumb to instant policies or policies in a box. Your mission, these policies needs to be aligned to your mission. So to meet business objectives, security must be consistent with business objectives. It should be cost effective and provide business advantage to the organization. And here are examples of the different policies, like rules on behavior. These are things we shall be looking at. And when we are looking at these like rules of behavior, we want to understand like security awareness, are your employees aware of these security policies? Then acceptable use policies, or how should these security implementation used? Then there are sanctions policies. So these are just examples when we are looking at different policy areas. Then there are roles and responsibilities, minimum security controls, oversight. All those are different examples, but we will look at them as we move on. So these are the ones you need to put into your mind when you are developing a security policy, like to understand what are my rules of behavior when you are looking at a specific organization. Then you also need to understand what are my roles and responsibilities, because they differ from organization to organization. So that is what it means. Then your security policy also needs to be aligned with your organization structure, meaning that they must establish and convey explicit information security responsibilities, accountability, and oversight for your organization's structure. They should also be aligned to organizational controls. When we are talking about organizational controls, is like an example, incident response policy. When there is a cyber attack, what needs to be done? Do you need to communicate it to your internal employees? Do you need to communicate it to your customers just for information purposes? All of that needs to be aligned to your organizational controls. What do you do when this happens? That is what we mean. Then you also need to align it to industry, threats, and culture. As much as your organization is different, it operates in an industry. Let's say it is in the banking industry. Then you need to align your security policies according to the banking industry culture and the threats which are in that banking industry. If it is in the manufacturing industry, the same. If it is in the education industry, the same. That is why we are saying all information security policy sets address, or at least they should address many of the same issues, but the strength of the control, the strictness of the sanction, and the degree of oversight in these controls must fit the organization's threat environment, industry, and company culture. So let us look at the best way to do it. The best way to do it is by using the top-down security. Like we have said previously, it needs to be aligned with your business objectives, or you need, as you develop your strategic plan, you need to have security as one of the factors to consider. So the approach of defining and implementing security controls is based on the directions of the top management, reflecting the business objective. That is why it is called the top-down security, meaning that it will come from the top level management of the organization and then it trickles down. The advantage of this is that organizations benefit from a security program that is designed to meet the business or mission objectives through a clear understanding of the sensitive data and critical information systems which are available. So when we are looking at top-down security, it gives us that benefit because it has been designed with the organization vision and mission in mind. Unfortunately, what we are saying here is that all these information security programs are not top-down. Since when there is no strategic plan, or when you have not incorporated information security in your strategic plan, then these programs tend to move bottom up. Bottom up security programs, they have come in the presence of a vacuum. When there is a vacuum of strategy based on perceived technology needs, then there will be this daily reaction to issues as they are discovered. Like umepata kuna security issue, you do a patch, or you reconfigure your system, or you provide an account, you know, you are monitoring and you are reviewing rights of users and all of that. Then it becomes a bottom-up security strategy. The result is that you have a technology-heavy program that is limited in that it addresses security symptoms discovered at the staff level. That is always the problem. You see, you are always reacting to security issues, but you are not proactive. And that becomes a challenge. And that is why we are studying this unit, because when you are reacting to security challenges, it becomes very difficult. You will always be managing attacks. Yes, you have a security heavy program, but it is reactionary. Whereas you need to have security in mind. Like think of these big organizations like Facebook, and those organizations, since they have security in their mind, they already hire security experts and they have them on their payroll. But these other small institutions, think of our university like St. Paul's and many other organizations who don't have that in mind. They always fall prey to these bottom-up security programs, which are reactionary. What we are saying here is this: while discovering these security issues at the staff level is important, an information security program operating without high-level direction and decisions is misaligned to the organizational business objectives. You will notice that it will be very expensive because when there is already an attack, they tend to take advantage. But if you had designed it, you have a budget for it, and you have designed your information system with security in mind, then it becomes very easy to manage your information systems security. So I hope it has made sense why information security management is important.